Well, the 2 million minutes of global examination, the first film, was a diagnosis of the situation that clearly showed, I think, to any person with common sense and without an axe to grind, that our kids are behind. I then spent a couple of years looking for what is the right model for American education in the 21st century. It has to have a much higher curriculum standard, and my argument is I don't see how our children studying at this level can compete with 200 million Chinese kids studying at this level and 200 million Indian kids studying at this level. That's not how we compete athletically. You know, to go to the Olympics and win gold, you have to compete at the global standard. So I was looking for schools that offered a curriculum at the global standard, and I honestly had started to worry that maybe Americans can't compete. And then I found a school it's a charter school in one of the poorest counties in the country, in Tucson, Arizona, the Basis School, that was ranked #1 in Newsweek in 2008, and its curriculum is actually slightly above the global standard. So by their senior year in high school, they're doing differential equations and game theory. It's based on the AP, primarily on the AP curriculum, and it has all the intellectual content and high cognitive skills of Indian and Chinese schools, but it has all the creativity, the interaction, the innovation, the critical thinking that is characterized by the best American classroom. And so I found this school and made a film about it. And essentially what the film says is that American kids can compete with the rest of the world. We just haven't asked them to step up to that level of competition. I would say from making the film 2 million minutes, the 21st century solution, two things leap out of my mind. One is, and this is, the school is in Tucson. Tucson is not a wealthy community. The first lesson I learned is income level has no bearing on your ability to learn at a global standard. The kids in these schools come from middle and low income families, some very low income families, below poverty level, and yet they're able to learn by the time they're 16, 17 to do AP calculus, differential equations, AP English literature. So American kids are smart. They can do it. The second thing I learned was the difference is the teacher in the classroom. Every teacher at Basis has a bachelor's and master's in their discipline. So if you're teaching physics, you have a bachelor's and master's in physics first. Second, you have a love for children and want to teach. Third, the Basis staff takes you through a program that teaches you to be an effective classroom teacher. But it starts with your passion for physics. So I sat in on the physics class, for example, and I didn't do well in physics. I didn't have a very good teacher. In fact, my teacher was an education major who took 24 credit hours of science and had never taken a physics class, was one chapter ahead of us. Sitting in this room in Basis, being taught physics by a young man in his 30s with a master's in physics and a passion for education, a passion to teach, and a passion for children, I was excited. My camera crew said, we've got to go to the next room. I said, well, he's about to solve the problem. I've got to wait. I've got to wait. So the two things, American kids can achieve at a world standard, and the classroom teacher should be a master in his or her discipline. Well, there was a lot of controversy, and primarily out of the educational establishment. The Harvard Graduate School of Education condemned my film, didn't think it was accurate, although None of the faculty members had been in India or China, nor had they reviewed the curricula of those two countries. And I think a lot of it is, a lot of the negative reaction is, you know, we spend $600 billion a year on our education system, more than any other country in the world. Right. It's a hard pill to swallow when someone comes back with new knowledge from two countries, China and India, that most Americans think are highly impoverished third world countries, and demonstrates that their educational system is superior to ours. Mm-hmm. So it's nobody likes to be told they're not spending their money efficiently, mm-hmm. And no one likes to hear that their kids are way behind. Mm-hmm. But we've been way behind since 1983, A Nation at Risk. That report came out. Right. I mean, our children are globally competitive until the 4th grade, mm-hmm. and then by 8th grade they are 25th in math and 21st in science out of 30 developed countries. That doesn't include India and China or Vietnam or Cambodia or South Korea. And honestly, when General Motors filed for bankruptcy, I never thought I would see that in my lifetime. That, to me, was a huge wake-up call on the order of magnitude of Sputnik going over. I mean, what it said is the rest of the world is more competitive than we are in the automotive industry. Well, you're going to start to see that happening in biotechnology, medical devices. You're going to see it in software. You're going to see it in manufacturing. Well, I think, and what we're going to do coming out of the release of this film is form a grassroots organization. And what we want to do is be able to help parents do something, help them mobilize. So they'll be able to register, and then when legislation is occurring in pick a state, Iowa, and it is going against what the President and the Secretary of Education and Speaker Gingrich and Reverend Sharpton advocate and what I advocate, we're going to be able to mobilize them with emails and voice messaging and have them talk to their legislators. I mean, this is 1776 Redux. I mean, we don't need education reform. We need an education revolution right now. I employ young people in India. I work with young people in joint ventures in China. Our kids coming out of our colleges today, and I also have a company here several software companies here in the U.S., our kids are not competitive. I can see it every day. And so we don't have 30 years to get this fixed. We have to take action right now. So we're going to try and build a grassroots organization, hopefully bring in Speaker Gingrich's organization, hopefully bring in Reverend Sharpton's organization and others who really, we've got to go into those legislatures, those state legislatures, with phone calls, with letters, with marches, and fight for our kids. Because the teachers' unions, the colleges of education, the education establishment, they're fighting for the adults in the education system. There is no children's union, and we need to mobilize the American people and form a children's union that will fight to get the best education that our children deserve. And we need it. If our kids get a poor education and they can't compete, our whole economy goes down. That affects all of us, adults and children alike.